Hey, good morning, everyone. Is it the holiday? No one's around. Wow, it's just me. Well, okay, so we have a policy. We, the collective we, that if no one joins me, then I just kind of quit out. Not quit. Well, yes, I leave after about 10 minutes because this is an open room and you're not here just to hear me talk about, I don't know, about the microphone or about what I did over the weekend or how awesome I am. You're not here for that. You're here for other people. And occasionally I throw in a funny face or say something that I laugh at, which may pass for a joke. So you're not here for a 10-minute monologue. And on other shows, they might have like a score of people to write a 10-minute monologue, and I'm just here doing my thing. So you got me for 10 minutes, and if no one else shows up in the back room, in the green room here, then I'm going to just sign off and just say thank you and so long for all the fish. What's up, Scott Duke? Glad to see you're around this morning. And of course, Jesse Bear with two cats. Oh, Rage is here. Oh, okay. Big Rage. Big Zebra and Rage. What's up, lads?
Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going? What's up, Big Zebra?
Oh no, I'm in the show.
You're in the show.
There we go.
Okay.
I prefer that icon.
I was about to say I expected more stripes.
Yes. Instead, you just caught a fat guy using his laptop on his bed. This is why I prefer the whole zebra thing.
Sure.
So, as of this moment, as far as you're concerned, I'm the zebra.
I'm with the zebra. All about the zebra.
Thank you. And I see the raging atheist is here too.
Oh yeah, howdy.
How you doing, Rage?
I'm working, man. I'm building an OBS, building back OBS up and doing all that good fun stuff today.
Can OBS serve as an alternative to StreamYards?
I use StreamYards as well. Do this little. I think you've got the same thing, Andy. Maybe because I can actually turn it off. But I had this little script hack that I use StreamYards, and I'll use a mix of StreamYards and OBS at the same time, but it's all running through OBS as opposed to StreamYard. Right now, StreamYard has some connection issues going on that seem to be new.
I tried using OBS, but it's difficult to use when you only have hooves.
Yeah. You need you like at least two screens, I think, to make it run nice and smooth.
Okay, I just have the laptop. So
yeah, I just have the laptop too. I just use StreamYard to tell you the truth because I am incompetent or lazy. Maybe a little bit from column A, maybe a little bit from column B.
And I haven't noticed it on everybody, and StreamYard is weird like that because sometimes some people using StreamYard will get an echo. I know you've had an echo in the past. Well, other people doesn't. I've seen some people when they share a screen on StreamYard, it lags really bad, and then it started happening to me. And I'm like, well, I thought, I'm like, Battle Creek's internet connection is bad. I've been cleaning out my computer thinking, all right, my computer is running slow. Yeah. And switching to OBS, I ran a test this morning and I had none of those connection issues that I was having for the last week or two on StreamYard.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm not sure. And StreamYard does that. They mess with things. So, they'll probably get it fixed, but that's ultimately why I decided to go back with the OBS, even though it is a lot more complicated, a lot more work involved.
I hope people are enjoying this tech talk.
Yeah.
I had a funny thing. My brother he's a lawyer in a law firm, and Windows Vista came out. And when it came out, it absolutely caused nothing but chaos.
Yeah.
And they actually switched to Apple. Then a few years later, Apple did something that caused nothing but chaos, and they ended up switching back to a Windows system, which astonished me. Because they just couldn't afford to wait around while these problems were...
Yeah. I'll get an update. Like I got an update. I use PixArt to do my thumbnails and stuff. I don't use Adobe. I use Adobe for everything else, but I don't like the I can't remember the name of it, but if I'm cutting out a picture, Photoshop. But if I'm cutting out a picture, I use PixArt, and they came out with an update about a month ago, changed everything, and practically broke the program. And I'm like, why do you fix something that's not broken? Right? Like, it drives me crazy.
Is PixArt expensive?
Oh no, it's a free app I run on my phone. And it worked really, really good. And now it's garbage. It's garbage until they fix it. And then, like waiting around for them to fix that. I don't have time for that. I got to make thumbnails.
Right.
I've had difficulty with it too, Rage. I use the same thing on my iPad. What's up, Clockwork?
Hey, it's Clockwork Rex.
So yeah. All this tech talk is so.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it, but I guess we have to be considerate of the herd.
Well, I mean, I figured I'd come in and talk physics and totally dry the whole panel up.
No, excellent.
I would like some physics talk. Is there dirty physics talk? Can you talk dirty physics to me?
Dirty physics? Well, if you want to talk quantum shit, yeah, that's pretty damn dirty because nobody's figured it out yet.
This is what I know
Don't go
about
to the black hole. Don't go to the black hole.
This is what I know about physics right now, about particles and shit. And this is the extent of my knowledge, is that I know that there are supposedly particles that they expected to find. These particles have not been found. And so that now puts the model that they've been using, physicists, are now wondering what's wrong with our models since the predicted particles are not there. This is what I know.
Well, that's fair. You pretty much, they haven't found what they expected to find, and you know that's science. You fucking do science.
Yes, and that jeopardizes string theory. From once again, my very cursory reading of the material, and so what people have been banking on to explain everything to have a unified theory, that's now in jeopardy.
Yeah, it's iffy as hell.
Yeah. What's up?
Let's keep it clean.
By the way, a little side thing. In Canada, we used to have incredibly vigorous censorship. So, for example, when I was a kid, you couldn't have a penis entering a vagina on film, that sort of thing.
No,
and that's when they broke down. But while it was still on, the cops raided a video store near me. And one of the films they confiscated was The Black Hole from Walt Disney.
The Disney
version? Well, yeah, that's kind of a dark movie. I mean, if you sit down if you watch it, it's fucking dark.
Oh, there are frightening scenes of hell. There is a hell, and it's in a black hole, apparently.
Of course.
But
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh,
it's
well,
a great movie.
I don't know about that, but it's got the Disney-fied robots with big eyes, and instead of real robots.
The Maximilian robot?
The helper robots, the little ones that are cute and friendly.
Yeah, but
those
Maximilian scared the fuck out of me when I was a kid.
Disney made that when they were searching around. Disney wasn't doing well in its film business during the 80s and before The Little Mermaid came out. So they were really searching for how to make money from movies. And that's the only reason, interesting point, that's the only reason why Roger Rabbit was made. And because it was so radical for the time. And the black hole. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And you know what was a good movie too was Event Horizon. I like that.
Oh, I loved Event Horizon.
Oh, sad news. The studio cut out a huge amount of material from Event Horizon, and we will never see it. It's not it's not in someone's vault somewhere. And it was a lot worse and more interesting than the original film.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
But so, still a good film.
Yeah. Rach, how are you vibing Indigenous Peoples Day?
I think it's a good notion, but I think it's any forced notion isn't really viable. And I mean, as long as Columbus Day exists, Native Americans are going to have an issue with this day. So to put Indigenous Day on the same day as that, I think that's a misstep.
Yeah, it's kind of a
Yeah, I know that some states and some cities have moved Indigenous Peoples Day to another Monday. That was also in the article that I referenced in the last show. But yeah, some cities.
That would make more sense. And then if you're actually going to make it a national holiday, and maybe, what would be nice for the American government to recognize that their history on the American Indian War isn't accurate and to start telling the accurate one, that would be nice as well.
Yeah.
Dr. Kennard, I mentioned that we had all these bodies found in residential schools in Canada, and learned from someone else in chat, I think his name is John, that the number is 2,300. But interesting story. We don't have Columbus Day, but we did have our first, in reference to natives, National Truth and Reconciliation Day, which
I've
is
heard about that.
Yeah, which is a great idea. The problem is, on that day, the president took it, or the prime minister took it as a holiday. So he's out having a holiday on National Truth and Reconciliation
Bad optics.
Day.
Bad optics. Yeah.
Very bad. And our prime minister does apologies really well, but he has to apologize a lot. So it's not looking good.
After apartheid ended in South Africa, there were truth and reconciliation commissions and just open meetings amongst communities to help people deal with the horror of apartheid. I don't know if something like that can be done, just like open meetings just to discuss,
Well, we have had one, which was about Indigenous women in Canada are much more likely to be abducted. They're hitchhikers, and they just go missing, and they've been probably murdered. And we actually had a long commission about it. And so they started putting in bus lines so Indian women or Native women didn't have to hitchhike on the highway in Tears, which even Americans know about, which is kind of shocking that something's so bad in Canada that it even makes the American news.
Oh yeah, I've had several videos about it, and we had that issue here in America as well. It just doesn't get talked about. Indigenous peoples do turn up missing at a fairly rapid rate here in America. It just never really makes national media. But I've done several videos on what's happened up in Canada. All over the country, we're actually finding mass grave sites. All over, not the country, but this country, but all over the continent. We're finding mass grave sites, Canada, America, and I'm sure if they start looking for them down in Mexico, they'd find them there as well. So I think we're starting to understand that, it was a lot worse than these governments have been telling us for a long time.
It's not in their best interest, as the government sees it, to let people know how bad it was. That's how they feel.
Yeah, I mean, because I've talked to the elders and I've heard the stories of the raids, and they still talk about them. Like, these things have been passed down generation to generation, and these raids were the American government would come into these tribes and slaughter everybody indiscriminately, without remorse, and that just doesn't get talked about. It does get portrayed sometimes. I know a lot of people find the movie about Wounded Knee, the HBO movie that they did back in the day, to be fairly accurate. I mean, it could be better, but a true telling of the history has never really been done. And if you actually go around and talk to like Americans, I'm not sure how it is in Canada, they really don't have much sense of history when it comes to Native Americans at all.
One of the things I told my kids about, right, every Columbus Day, it was about the Trail of Tears, right? About how there were, and it tells you something about the American government in terms of how the president interacts with the Supreme Court. Because Andy Jackson, I think he was the 8th president, the Supreme Court basically ruled in favor of the native tribes, 5 native tribes in Georgia, basically saying that the state couldn't steal their land. And Jackson just said, F you to the Supreme Court. I think his quote was something like, "They don't have an army. Go fuck yourselves."
And in my opinion, Andrew Jackson still stands as the worst president ever.
War criminal at the very
War criminal. One of the most, most responsible for the genocide, had been participating in the genocide since he was in the military himself. So it's just he despised Indians, and probably had good reason, because it was, Indians were fighting back. So I mean, but we just need to understand the true history, and I think once America can do that, then we can actually start towards repercussions, bringing them into society. We don't even really bring them into society. We just keep them isolated.
No. Yeah. It just burns me that he ever got on the $20 bill, Andy Jackson.
To me, it'd be like putting George Bush Jr. on a bill, right? Like, no, these are war criminals. They don't deserve to be venerated.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, you could start a movement where everyone takes their Andrew Jackson bills and writes Andrew Jackson, president and war criminal on the bills, and so they circulate.
Genocider in Jesus.
That's a good idea. It is. Isn't it illegal to write on money?
Yes, it is. And fuck it. The Canadian $5 bill had a wonderful photograph of a wonderful artwork of I think it was William Saint Laurent, and somebody figured out that you could make him look like Spock with a black pen, and so all over the country, people were making their Spock $5 bills.
That's great.
They were just awesome. Speaking of money, when are you Americans going to go plastic with your money? It's plastic is working a lot out for us and all over the world.
I have, like, as in plastic, like physical money?
Yes, it's like a polymer, and it allows for holograms in the bill and even transparencies. Very hard to copy.
If it's not oil-based plastic, I'd be all for that. You could sign me up right now. If it is oil-based plastic, and yes, there are oil-based most plastic here in the States are oil-based.
Yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't heard of that. But of course, we don't know what environmental damage just the regular cotton paper.
That's true too. And I'm sure someone with a big brain somewhere has done a cost-benefit analysis. I haven't looked into it though. Yeah.
I wish we could say Canada invented the idea, but I think we got it from the Australians.
I think that's true. I remember Sammy, who's usually here in the chat, who's from Australia, talked about Australia being a pioneer in plastic cash. What was weird is that we were out and about yesterday. My girlfriend had left her phone here at the house, and so she actually used cash. She had her wallet with her, her purse with her, and so she just used cash. And I'm like, what is that stuff? What's going on?
My plastic is a card. I just put it in.
There's a thing about the cashless society. When they were all talking about moving to a cashless society 20 years ago, I didn't realize they meant I wouldn't have any money.
That's pretty accurate. I'm old school. I like to have cash, although I do have a couple not credit cards, but debit cards. But I usually try to use everything in cash, and that seems that I posted a meme the other day. Somebody took a picture of one of the tent little cities or whatever of homeless people in tents, and they're like, this is the communist idealism of housing, and like somebody responds, no, literally this is the current capitalist system of housing.
If you look at Hoover towns from the 20s, right, and the 30s, and of course Herbert Hoover was the U.S. president Republican who oversaw the beginning of the Great Depression. This is purely a Republican bake here.
It's nobody has any money, and they keep giving tax breaks to rich people. Like sooner or later, even the rich, even the right, have to realize, like, why we ain't really we're not getting anything out of this. Right?
I will say this, and I'll just share my own cheap way of going about my business. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I use my 1% back credit card all the time. and then I have an Acorns account, and no one's paying me to say this. This is just what I do, and I found it useful. And I round up whatever I spend, and I throw it into my investment, my very small investment account, and that's worked out well for me over time.
You know, if you like, there was a financial guy who literally saved my ass.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and they may have an American outlet that
Oh,
might be using the same investment technique that he does for me.
oh, interesting.
And what it involves is that I took my inheritance,
Yeah.
and which is apparently the only way I can make money, and and so what happens is that it becomes collateral. It's invested,
Yeah.
but based on that investment, I'm able to borrow 3 times that amount,
Wow.
and that gets invested. And
Yeah.
then for
Oh, right.
11 years,
Yeah.
the all the earnings go off to paying principal and interest,
Yeah.
and then I'm left with a nice big thing of change.
If your returns, especially, yeah, I don't want to get into too much inside baseball. I don't do that because I'm paranoid about money.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but as long as your returns are coming back, healthy returns, then that I can see how that system would work.
Oh, well, they invested in the most boring things imaginable, and
Mm.
then as the amount grows, they do more interesting things.
I,
So the money is growing nicely.
a little bit about me. And microphone's like, oh no, don't tell people more about your horrible past, Andy. Oh yeah. So when I disowned my parents, right? I told them they could go take my money. Whatever money that was coming to me, I told them they could just fucking give it away. Just give it away to some fucking non-religious charity, basically. And that was just one of the many times I've just said I don't want the money. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're living well without it, good for you.
I am living. Period. I'm doing okay. I got no complaints, to tell you the truth. I got a roof over my head. I got money in my pocket. Oh, I got plastic in my pocket, and I'm doing okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Andy
I
keeps
turned the
shooting himself in the foot.
thing. Sorry, Clockwork. I talked over you.
What's that?
You're fine. You're
What's
fine.
up, Clockwork?
I just said Andy keeps shooting himself in the foot over and over and over again.
I do. I shoot myself in the dick. That's what I do. I've taken several vows of poverty, being the primary caregiver of my kids, saying no to any kind of inherited money. Let's see, I don't know, a bunch of other things, like working in human services most of my life. Those are my, I could be one of those world renouncers over in India and just hang out at the Ganges and just look at the
Just
water.
out of curiosity, why did you say no to inherited money? Or did it
They're,
come with stupid strings attached?
they were just evil people. They were evil
Oh,
Baptists.
oh,
Evil
I'm sorry.
Baptists. Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep.
See, all this talk of inheritance is like alien speech to me. I come from a long, my dad's side of the family. We're Irish, and we came over, I think, early 1900s.
Yep.
Landed in New York, and we're firmly entrenched in middle class. Like my dad kind of got out of it, but he got out of it after me and my brothers all moved out and moved away. And my brother's gotten out of it. He's definitely, I would say, probably upper class now. But outside of that, that whole side of my family, including myself, we're middle to lower, and we have been for generations. And there is no inheritance. You die. Usually, the family members are stuck with debt because
Yeah,
you die.
yeah.
So,
Well, I'll say this, is that my dad only had, he worked for the phone company, and I know I've talked about this before, so please forgive me. He was a blue collar guy, never was in management at the telephone company, but he did his 35 years and saved crazy. He just saved a lot of money because he never spent it. But he lived, he was able to provide very well, because that's what you could do back in the 60s and the 70s. In the early part of the 80s, you could just work a blue collar job and do well for yourself.
yeah, and that's really hard to do nowadays. It just really is. And right now, like an issue that we're having here in Michigan is a lot of people are having to start over. So they're starting at the bottom rung in the factories, to where before they weren't, and that's causing quite a big issue. And we're seeing that kind of roll over into the restaurant industry as less and less people come in because they have less and less money now.
I heard about that, Rage. I heard that one of the reasons why there's a crisis in hospitality in terms of restaurants is that people are just getting better jobs.
Oh yeah. A huge chunk of the restaurant workforce moved on to better jobs because there was an opportunity to get them.
which is great. I am so happy. I read about how all these Americans are sort of leading the charge, where they were in the food services business,
Mhm.
which means they were paid shit and treated like shit. And they said, "What's that American song about? Take this job and shove it. I ain't working for it
Yeah.
anymore." That should be an anthem.
Yeah.
Oh
That
yeah,
is
I love
wonderful.
my job. I've worked for the same place off and on for over 10 years now. I love the owners, but I also see the corruption in the system. It's one of the worst industries that you can work for. It creates a poverty level population, and I'm getting out of it myself. I'm hunting for the right job because right now they're just out there, and you don't have to settle for less. You can actually, you have a little bit of negotiating power. And, I have stipulations. I'm a single father. I've got to get my kid to school. I can figure out what she can do after school until I get out of work, but I got to get her to school. So but I can be picky right now because I know I'm going to land the job that I'm looking for.
Good,
It's
dude.
great. I wish I could join you. I have 2 sleep disorders, and I worked for as long as I could, and then I just became too fucked up to do anything rational.
Yeah, well, that's going to be eventually my issues. I'm not going to be able to work anymore, but I'm using these last couple years. I'm going to try to get everything I can out of it.
It's a wise idea, right? It's
And they might actually fix my feet. They just keep saying they're going to and never do. So I'm, the skeptic that I am is like, yeah, they're not going to do this surgery.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
they're going to disable me, right? That's where my head is at.
I had a girlfriend, and she worked in a nonprofit insurance agency, and she was a manager. And before that, she was dealing with people on the phones. And I learned a bunch of the horror show of insurance companies, a lot about insurance companies. And one of them is that you really do have to advocate for yourself. You have to be willing to call up and start talking to people and advocating for yourself.
Oh yeah, and that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm spending a couple hours every day trying to make this shit happen, because they're just dragging their feet, and I'm back to, like, not only do I have 100% pain back, it's worse than it was before they gave me that damn shot. Like, I almost wish they wouldn't have gave me the shot because it's worse now. And they're not doing it. They gave me this shot right into the vein down in my feet because
like cortisone or
something like that. It was a bunch of stuff. It was steroids. It was pain relief. It numbed my foot for a good day to where I couldn't feel my foot, and I was trying to work. It was insane. But it took the pain away for like 2 months. It took it away. But it's tarsal tunnel. There's this. It's a simple surgery. They got to get rid of 2 pieces of bone in both of my feet, which will give that vein room to swell up, and I won't be experiencing the pain. But the insurance company is like, you got to try all resort, and so they're just dragging their feet, and they're not, it's getting to the point that it's getting really, really hard to work again.
If I can help, I have I come from sort of a family that was legal savvy, and it sounds like you need a lawyer to deal with your insurance company. And something that makes people shit their pants is a letter from a lawyer. And maybe you can find one. You need to shop via reputation, and that's time consuming, but that time might be very well spent instead of faxing or phoning your insurance company.
Yeah,
but like, I'm really good with both, right? Like, so if I'm going to be disabled, disable me so I can start doing that process. But it's like they're dragging feet on both ends, and it's
your story is all too common, right?
It's the American healthcare system. It's however we reform it, it's got to be reformed, right? It just doesn't work as it is.
A lawyer will, that notion that if a man facing execution, what's the phrase, that it makes your head wonderfully clear?
Oh yeah.
And the thing is that you can't put that clarity into someone's head unless it's a lawyer and a lawyer's letterhead, and it's saying, you fucking with me, I'm gonna fuck with you harder. And if you can find the right lawyer, maybe on a contingency basis,
There might be some
sue
pro
them.
bono people out there too. You never know.
Well, yeah,
Right?
and it might be to that point now, because like, I thought 3 months ago I was going to get this surgery, and 8 doctor's appointments later, we're trying a different thing, so it might be to that point where I need to like start asking, at least like getting some advice and considering maybe speeding this along through a legal process.
I have a friend who their regular doctor tried to get a certain treatment for them, and the insurance company said no. But then the doctor referred my friend to a specialist, and then they got the treatment because the referral came through a specialist. That's how bizarre the medical system here, or the insurance system here is.
Yeah, and usually I don't have too many issues, but it's a big surgery, and not only that, like I'm worried about recovery time, which I've heard is not as long as I thought it could be. Being out of work and all of that. So it's like, let's just get it on. The sooner the better for me, and they're taking their time. And so it might be time to maybe get that letterhead sent to the insurance company, and I don't know. I've never really considered my options when it comes to this. You're kind of programmed when you've grown up like myself, which has been rather poor for most of my life. I didn't even have insurance, so you avoid the doctor. And even now that I do have insurance, it's like I have to overcome like this ingrained thing inside of me, not because I don't want to go to the doctor. And my life for like 4 months now has been nothing but doctor's appointments. It really sucks.
And that's not a glitch of the system. That's a feature of the system. They want you to feel like you cannot go to the doctor.
Well, and for until Obamacare, you really couldn't. You'd show up at the ER when you're dying sick, and then you just ignored whatever medical bills came your way. That was life for a poor person, and the taxpayers would end up paying that. This was back when I was on the bottom rungs of the restaurant industry. I was living pretty much dirt poor. I worked my way out of that, and I have pretty decent insurance now. I make pretty decent money. I could make better if I was managing in a different industry, though, without a doubt. So that's kind of, and I would have better insurance if I was managing in a different industry. So that's where my head is at, is get the better insurance, and then they'll probably treat me better.
I gotta tell you,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to do a shitty joke, and here's my shitty joke. I was going to do it with a straight face, but now I can't. Rage, I have to tell you, I have to be honest with you that I'm all for the ACA, but I don't like Obamacare.
I thought Obama betrayed us with Obamacare, honestly.
They're the same thing, Andy. They're the same thing on the, people say that all the time.
All right. Yeah, I get what you're saying now. I call it Obamacare because that's what I've always called it, because they call it that. But no, I've never really liked it. I thought Obama betrayed us with it. He promised us universal health care and then gave us a Republican package that the Republicans have demonized ever since.
Yep, fair enough.
Well, I hope you have a friend who either knows a lawyer. You can ask, for example, I've gone to lawyers to say, can you find me a lawyer who does X, Y, and Z well?
Yeah, I saw the lawyer over some issues a couple months ago, and so I do know a lawyer. I don't know if they would deal with that particular, but I'm sure they could refer me to somebody. And my funds are limited, but it might be to the point to where because I can always allocate funds if I'm willing to do so. So it might be to that point that I need to, because it is to the point now. Like I thought 3 months ago I was getting the surgery. I announced 3 months ago I'm getting this surgery. They're gonna fix it. 3 months later, it's like, nope, let's try this.
Right? You're literally part of a tribe. Right? I mean, you're like a card-carrying member. I don't know if there's even card-carrying members.
I'm registered with the Cherokee Nation. That's my mom was.
They might be able to hook you up. They might be able to.
I've never really tried to get whatever money could come my way. I left the reservation down in North Carolina under some pretty pretty bad circumstances. So most of them don't like me down there. Most of the Cherokees on that reservation. But it's basically because of who my teacher was. It had nothing to do with me. My teacher was shamed and outcast, and I was kind of a result of that. But also my white skin. My white blood was a big issue.
Well, I mean, even if you just do a little quick, it might be a database, or you might not actually have to.
Well, I've got all my papers, so it wouldn't be too hard. But I was raised to not do handouts ever, and I never have. And it's kind of like a fault of my upbringing, the way my dad raised us up.
I'm the same with rage. I can tell you stories off camera about how. Another way how I said no to money.
Yeah, like I still have issues getting money on YouTube. Like I have to overcome. I have to force myself to overcome them and put my links in the shit. And now I don't even have to do it because it does it for me, and I don't have to think about it.
That's good. Yeah.
If I can just put in a word, there are so many people who do not consult lawyers because they think they cannot afford them.
Yeah.
But often the person cannot afford to not have a lawyer. And that may be your situation. I'm just a zebra. What do I know?
Well, no,
I wish you well.
I appreciate it. It's definitely getting to that critical time now because like the pain's fully back from the last shot. So it's either you're going to give me another shot until we get to the surgery, or you're going to do the damn surgery, because I'm not going to be able to make it through these shifts for much longer. And I'm losing weight. So that's supposed to help, but it really isn't. The pain's just there, and it's until they fix it, it's going to be there. And then I don't even think that he's completely diagnosed it all the way, because I don't think it's just tarsal tunnel. The tarsal tunnel explains the pain on the bottom of the feet. It doesn't explain the pain on the top. So I'm thinking about going to Kalamazoo for a second opinion and maybe even starting from scratch.
I think a second opinion's wise. Yeah, because there are good doctors and there are good facilities, and there are not so good facilities. So if I have anything that's really bad happening to me, or if I feel like there's something really bad happening to me, I'll just drive down or go over to Mass General, because that in my mind is one of the top tier places.
And this dude, he's a specialist and he's within the plan. So it's that's the other thing about American insurance is you've got to go to this doctor. You can't go to that doctor. So if I find a good doctor in Kalamazoo, I might end up paying a lot more money out of pocket. So, but it's come to a point something's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, dude, definitely. Yeah.
The great old American healthcare system.
I was about to say that.
Don't need to touch it. It's perfect.
It's so bad that I remember reading about people going overseas to get medical treatment.
Yeah, a lot of people. I think people are still, trying to get up into Canada here in Michigan. If you live up north, why not?
Well, you've got a Canadian right here, so if you're curious about the system, ours isn't perfect either, but it's pretty good. I had an issue where I was in terrible pain, and even though it was in both my arms, my doctor was worried about my heart. So I went in for heart, immediately, went to the emergency room. I flashed my health card, and I was in. And I left, and there was never a bill or even confirmation of services. It didn't come up, and I think my American friends deserve the same treatment. The only problem is in Canada is that, let's say you need to see a dermatologist or you need a hip replaced. There are various things where, holy shit, there's a long line. But on the other hand, we have you, Raging Atheist, who instead of a line is facing a barrier.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you guys spend more money than we do on healthcare, and your results are kind of poor because people can't get access to. So you're really using all that money to treat a smaller percentage of your population. But anyway, I'm going to stop spouting Canada trivia. And
I'm just going to say, my mind was blown when I think it was Simply Secular Dave from the West Coast said that that the Canadian health card is the same as the license. It's like, what? Only one
Yes,
card?
yes, it is. But it's not a Canadian health card. It's done from province to province. And it's
Okay.
partially funded by the federal government. So if you live in a poor area, that poor area still gets money.
Okay.
So I have an Ontario health card.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, see, the thing here in the States, if you go to the ER, before you even really they'll put you in a room or something, but they're going to have that person with the cart coming in to see how you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, you got insurance, you got, how you're going to be able to pay any out of pocket expenses. And then after they push that card out, your doctor will come in because they're going to get their money.
If you in Boston, there is a place. Once again, if you're ever sick in Boston, if you live in Boston, go to Fenway Health if you can't pay for anything. I had a girlfriend who was dirt poor, even poorer than I was, and and I've told this story before, but it's so important if you live in this area, is that she got a root canal for $8. She got
we have like Grace Health here is like that. Like if you're poor, you can go there and you're going to get treated. Yeah.
So there are small islets of rationality and compassion.
Wasn't that son of a bitch? What was his name? The Mormon guy. My brain. I'm getting older.
Romney?
My brain doesn't produce.
As soon as you say Romney, because he was governor of Massachusetts for a while, and he came.
And he instituted a healthcare system.
Right,
and
which
then
is the ACA is based on that.
Yeah.
Yes, and then he said the ACA was no good.
I know, it's just so full of crap.
Yes.
I mean, it was his system. It was Romney Care here in Massachusetts.
But they had to play that party line to demonize it, and they still try. And then, Republican states, they haven't really had it. It's so gutted that it's not even really there.
Yeah. Who would have thought that the party who hated, the ACA, Obamacare, would hate masks and vaccines too? Who would have thought that?
Yeah, we live in crazy times.
We went from tech to healthcare. Next subject, military.
Military. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's a good thing about these after shows is that these open rooms that it can go to any topic,
Well, I was in the Army. What about the military?
I don't know. I was just suggesting it as one of the next big issue.
You're all mindless slaves.
No.
Well, according to some people, I was just a glorified secretary at my job in the Army because I did intelligence.
Oh, you were smart.
Man,
and they were smart shaming you? Because that's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I was gung-ho after 9/11. I tried to join, but I had surgery on my foot in high school and had metal in my ankle. I didn't pass their physical.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad now because I'm like anti-war now. But back after 9/11, I was caught up with the whole country. I was gung-ho, like, send me over. I want to kill some Muslims.
Wow. That is really true, though. There's like this whole fervor.
Yeah, we were all bloodthirsty right after 9/11. The whole country was.
Yeah.
Well, they wanted me to be an MP, and I took the test for it. And they said, "Oh, you passed. You want to be an MP?" And I was like, everybody hates military cops. So, no.
Well, I was like, if I joined the police force and they wanted me to join that whatever it's called, to where you're investigating the police, I'm like, that doesn't sound like the job I want to have. Nobody wants to be the snitch, right?
No one wants to be the snitch.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And I think somebody wants to be the snitch. Someone.
I think we need more snitches, but analogy aside.
Wait, what is that? It's not NCIS. It's the internal.
Yeah, internal affairs. Yeah,
internal affairs. There you go.
Fuck that noise. Working in intelligence in the military, at least you're not getting shot at, I would imagine.
No, I never saw combat. I never saw combat. I sent a lot of people into combat, but I never saw it myself.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of fucked up drone videos, though.
Did you say drone?
That would be the
video?
job to have, I guess. Would send them in and not have to worry about the bullets.
Is the Peace Corps in the military? Because that would be the military I would opt for. That would be it. The Peace Corps.
The Peace
Hopefully,
Corps?
yeah.
That's not military.
It's not.
You goddamn hippie.
And if I did go into the Peace Corps, I'd want to go into some place that has a temperate.
Go join the Coast Guard. Go join the Coast Guard.
Right. A buddy of mine actually joined the Merchant Marines. He went to the school in New York City. I forget the name of it. Kings Point. He went to Kings Point Naval Academy. He did very well for himself.
Okay. Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Fucking hippie.
I always thought that was a hard job being a merchant marine, and just oh my god, being on those ships for God knows how long, and watching the same DVD over and over again. I don't know.
I think that when it comes to the military, we as a people and our government especially needs to stop spending so much freaking money on it. I think we need to cut the budget in half and use our money like the Russians do. The Russians have nowhere near the military we have, and they have twice as good technology as we do. And it's really sad because we invest in these armies that can take over the world when our enemies are investing in technology that can destroy us from the inside. I think we need to drastically switch how we fund our government, because the vast majority of people don't have much money in the bank, and that's going to become a problem for them.
I have complained about the Russians incessantly, but I'll say one thing about their plan, and this is bouncing off what you said, Rage, is that they are very good at asymmetrical warfare, right? Mm-hmm. So their economy is very small, right? They have an aging population. They are actually a weak petrol state.
And Putin robbed, all of their fortune, right? They have no money.
Russia's economy is smaller than Italy's.
Yeah, dude, it is.
And it's shocking. But when you put all this money into tanks and ground troops, you can do some fucked up shit, like in the Ukraine.
Yeah, and in terms of what we've seen, what they can do, the Russians' ability to use, like I said, asymmetrical warfare. So they're using mercenaries, for an example. They're using unconventional troops to obtain their political goals. Because that's what weak states do, right? They have to get as much bang for the buck as possible, and that's what the Russians are doing.
What does our military expert there, Clockwork Rex, think of all this? He's been silent.
We sink too much money into black projects that nobody ever finds out about.
Yeah.
I mean, like trillions of dollars.
I'm still waiting on that Aurora plane.
Yeah, and
what the fuck is that?
It's never going to come.
Talk about that. It's classified.
Or it probably is flying over us right now, and we just don't know.
What is the Aurora plan? That's what Dr. Mordecai and I was just Googling it. The Aurora plan, what is that?
Oh, I was not a general, Dr. Mordecai.
I thought you was talking about a plane. The plane they've been developing or whatever.
Oh, it's it may or may not be a thing.
Dr. Mordecai just said America should invade Canada. And you already had a plan in place like that between the wars.
Yeah.
And it was found out, I think it was called Plan Red.
I think you're right. I saw a video on that, dude.
Yes. And I just want to say, don't do it. We're the best neighbors you could have. We're quiet, and we keep the lawn looking nice.
Yeah, you're polite. Yeah.
Shoot, man. I view Handmaid's Tale as prophecy. I think pretty soon you're gonna have half of America coming to Canada.
Yeah. You got a lot of water up there. That's what you have going against you.
Oh, that's something that worries me. I can tell you an interesting little tidbit. Okay. Every so often, for about 20 years till about the year 2000, American experts would come to British Columbia because it's a rainforest and there are enormous amounts of water up there, fresh water. And they would come up with this plan to divert the fresh water to California. And the plan was always the same: totally flood Canada's best province and just sink it underwater. All the farmland, all the beautiful habitat, all gone. And we're just, it was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I think Americans would be really upset if they knew how Americans in charge. The difference between American citizens and their government is there's always a difference everywhere. But holy shit,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am totally against the colonials, and America represents that. It sounds like the tactic we used against the Japanese in World War II, right? We flooded the island and just decimated them, and then that wasn't enough, so we had to drop our 2 bombs on them. It was like, we are ruthless in war, and I think that we prop up dictators and then try to play like we have the moral high ground when we talk about a dictator we don't like. It's just our American government is not a representation of the people, and I think if people were smart enough to understand what the government was really doing, they wouldn't really be for it. But there's spun narratives through the media. If you notice, every time we go to war, it's every media channel is gung-ho for it, and they dramatize it, and they make it look like it's this great and noble thing that we're doing, and then 5 years later we find out no, we had no business being there to begin with. So it's just this endless cycle. Getting out of Afghanistan is, to me, a precursor to Iran or China. They got their eyes on the bigger picture.
It's I was reading an article, and this is something I didn't know about, the United States involvement in Haiti, historically speaking, about how we took their gold supply, how Jefferson surrounded the country with a naval blockade after the slave did their rebelled against their French oppressors. So basically, the French Navy surrounded Haiti, as well as the American Navy back then, during Jefferson's tenure as president, and then how the U.S. military occupied Haiti for 19 years back in the 20s and the 30s. It's like, I knew none of that. I knew none of that whatsoever before, like, literally 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. Had no idea that happened.
And the Philippines, too.
We don't teach history here.
I mean, prior to World War II, there was a time when, during the Spanish-American War, where not only did they take the Philippines, they actually starved the Philippines out.
Yeah.
And wonderful Americans who were there kept diaries, and it's how we know that people were starving in the streets. It's really, again, our governments don't represent the best of us. They represent our worst instincts, it seems.
Well, and I know here they represent the interests that line their pockets. So I think that's the problem with government, is we've allowed corporations to take over. If you have the money to influence politicians, then those politicians are more than willing to be influenced. And really, we can't do nothing about it here in the States until we overturn Citizens United, and that's not an easy thing to do, especially with a Republican-led Supreme Court. It's not going to happen.
This is the interesting thing about the Philippines, and I wanted to do a Google search. I wanted to check out this story before I started talking about it. The 1911 Browning, the pistol, right, the automatic pistol, was developed in part because the previous sidearm of the U.S. military was not strong enough to stop a charging attacker, and they discovered that in the Philippines. So Browning, and I mean, I've never fired a 1911 Browning, semi-automatic pistol, but I have heard that they are large, powerful guns, and they're meant to be man stoppers, basically, to drop you down after one shot. And it was due to our involvement in the Philippines that weapon got developed, and it was a sidearm of the U.S. military until after World War II.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Needed a bigger gun. Things you learn on this show. It's crazy.
Yeah. such positivity this morning.
Nothing but dropping. Well, I was watching that video that Oz was playing for like 5 minutes, and I was about to have a freaking aneurysm rage.
I almost went in because I went to the channel. I almost went in the room, and I'm like, nope, I got to take my daughter to school. Y'all are being stupid.
Yeah, this is how it struck me. The video that Oz was playing about a nice, naive atheist wanting to be reasonable against theists who just play dirty pool.
Yeah, I mean, if you think Danny's an evil,
it's the Tang Network, the atheist.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Let me. It's not right up there now, but I subbed to the channel he was covering. It was I made a comment because it sounded like they almost sounded like Black Hebrew Israelites to me, and it makes sense now because I checked out the channel and the guy and then the other guy were both from New York City. This guy does street preaching in New York City, and he does combat against Black Hebrew Israelites. So it's just that they sound very similar because he deals with them. So I was like, all right, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It was just a bunch
it's
of
crazy, man.
Yeah, just it always irritates me when I hear someone gish galloping, right? The word fucking. They just like when the theists or the other person you're trying to have a conversation with just like spouts out words just so that you cannot respond. It irritates the crap out of me.
Yeah, and that's what Black Hebrew Israelites will do. They will just overtalk you, and that's what they were doing to Danny. Yeah. And like, if you think Danny is an evil person because he's an atheist, I'm like, man, you ain't even met like somebody like me yet. Because Danny's, he's a philosophy dude. He's kind of soft when it comes to these. Yeah, and he's very congenial and very polite, and you never know if he's trolling or if he's serious because he will argue every position from every angle, right? So like he was well above their heads and they couldn't even understand it. It was kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Does Danny have a channel there, Rich?
He does. I can't remember what he calls it though. It's
well, if you can, maybe you could post it into chat if it's easy to find.
Yeah, I've actually never been to it. I know he has one, but
okay,
like
no worries.
Yeah, you can. He's enters into rooms all over the place. You can find him in SFT rooms, praise rooms, often answers in atheism. They don't like him too much over there. Danny for a while wasn't allowed on my channel because John didn't like him at all. I found him to be intriguing. Me and John fought about that. He's an odd character.
now, why would there be conflict about having? I don't know the kid. I only saw him for like maybe 5 minutes, but he seemed reasonable.
Yeah, well, John just for whatever reason didn't like him and wouldn't tell me. Wouldn't really give me reason. Just like I don't like him. So it's like, I mean, Danny can be infuriating. He can be infuriating because, like I said, he will argue every position just to argue it and just to get your reaction to it.
Maybe the sex was no good. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, he just enjoys philosophical conversations and understands that most people don't know philosophy as well as he does, and he's probably still got a long way to go and doesn't understand it as well as others do.
So I guess the name of the channel might be Phil Talk. That's what Imaginary God says.
Yep, that's it. Phil Talk. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, thank you, God Equals. That's great. I'm going to look that up right now while we chit chat.
Yeah, the funny thing is he looks like he's 16, but he's like 26. So
some people look like that, dude. Yeah, he looks like a really young dude.
So a lot of people, including myself, just kind of underestimate him and kind of get shocked. There's this shock factor that comes along with the.
You only have to be kicked in the teeth once by someone who looks like they're still in middle school to realize I should listen to everyone. Regard what they look like.
Right this there. Phil Talk guy has beady little eyes. He looks kind of dangerous. Sorry, that came out of nowhere.
Okay.
I mean, Danny's no slouch.
Yeah.
Well, I just subscribed to him. I look forward to it.
So he's a philosophy guy.
Yeah, important. So I'm gonna have to close down the show because I have to go to work today, even though it's Indigenous Peoples Day. It's probably going to be a light day at work, but work is what I have to do. So thank you, panel, for showing up.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Fun
Thanks
talk,
for
man.
permitting a zebra into chat. A lot
I
of
like the
people want to
stripes.
do it.
I like the stripes. I like the gears. That's what I like right there. Thank you,
Thank you.
observers, lurkers, watchers, and we're going to do the same crazy thing tomorrow. Take care.
Andy, go adult.